I do not own the rights to this music. Hello, and welcome to Sunday School Summary with Brother Ron, Sunday School lesson for Sunday, January 9th, 2022. Our reference material for the Sunday School Summary is based upon the International Sunday School Lesson Series as published by the Sunday School Publishing Board. We are discussing Justice, Law, and History as the title of the Winter Lesson Series, which is categorized into 3 units or groups of lessons. In Unit 1, we talked about God requires justice, and in Unit 2, we're talking about God as the source of justice. The Justice, Law, History series focuses on justice as applied and documented in the Old Testament, and defines justice as originating with God and given to his people under the law. In these lessons, God applies justice to the lives of his people from Adam to Abraham that is moderated by mercy, just as we receive mercy from God. The title of our second lesson in the Unit 2 Winter Lesson series is titled Improbable Hope. Improbable hope, highly unlikely, but very possible with God. The key verse comes from Genesis chapter 21, verses 17 through 18, which reads as follows. God heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven, and said unto her, What aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the Lord of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thine hand, for I will make him a great nation. The title of today's lesson, Improbable Hope, scripturally comes from the Old Testament book of Genesis. Now, God had promised Abraham many children, even though Sarah was barren and growing older by the day. After many years of waiting, Sarah began to lose faith in God's promise to Abraham. She could not see how Abraham could father a nation when she was unable to have a child. So Sarah decided to take matters into her own hands by requesting that her husband sleep with one of their maids named Hagar. And consequently, Abraham took her up on the offer, and he and Hagar slept together, and they conceived a child who was Ishmael. Now the Lord was true to his word, and Sarah eventually bore a child named Isaac. And that is the source of the conflict between Abraham, Sarah, Hagar, Ishmael, and Isaac, which brings us to today's lesson. There are 3 summary lesson points for today. A mother's demand from Genesis chapter 21, verses 8 through 10. A father's dilemma from Genesis chapter 21, verses 11 through 14a. An unlikely deliverance from Genesis chapter 21, verses 14b through 20. The passages for the lesson today revolve around the key words of faith, mock, demand, dilemma, deliverance, and improbable. Now, faith is the complete trust, assurance, or confidence in God. In today's lesson, it is Abraham's trust and faith in God, and Sarah's wavering faith in God. Improbable is an action or event that's highly unlikely to occur. So, improbable with man is very possible with God, as he gave and saved Ishmael and Hagar. Demand or mock, is treating someone with contempt, ridicule, or making fun of them. Just plain old meddling, as we would say. And Ishmael meddled his brother. Demand is to assert an action in an authoritative manner. And Sarah authoritatively demanded that Hagar be sent away. Dilemma is a situation in which you have to make a difficult choice. And in Abraham's case, the choice is to do the right thing and also to please Sarah. And deliverance is the act of rescue, salvation, or liberation. And God deliverance today liberated Hagar and Ishmael in the desert. A mother's demand. In these passages, Genesis records that Isaac grew stronger and he began to eat solid food. And on the day he was weaned, Abraham threw a huge feast for the ceremony. And at the feast, Sarah saw Ishmael mocking Isaac. Remember, Ishmael is the son of Abraham and the slave. In response to Ishmael's mocking, Sarah demanded that Abraham send the slave woman and her son packing, if you will, and that the Ishmael was not to receive any of the family inheritance. She demanded that Isaac was entitled to all of Abraham's inheritance or estate. So Sarah's demand creates an injustice resulting from her idea of the surrogate mother to begin with. Now she wants to deny Ishmael and Hagar their legitimate rights for a decision that she made without any input from God. A father's dilemma from Genesis chapter 21, verses 11 through 14a. And in these passages, Sarah demands troubled or made Abraham very sad and uncomfortable because Ishmael was his son also. So Abraham's dilemma again was he wanted to do the right thing and he also wanted to please his wife Sarah. So God spoke to Abraham and told him not to be upset about Ishmael or about Hagar, to do what Sarah told him, and that his family descendants would come through Isaac and not Ishmael. So God reassured and reinforced the covenant with Abraham. But because Ishmael is also your son, God said, I will make his descendants become a great nation of people also. So Abraham's trust in God produced a just and equitable decision towards Ishmael and Hagar. God's assurance helped Abraham to make the right decision. So Abraham woke up early the next morning and took some food and poured some water in a container made of animal skins, and he sent Hagar and Ishmael on their way. And unlike the deliverance from Genesis chapter 21, verses 14b through 20, and in these passages, Hagar left and traveled around the wilderness of Beersheba and trouble struck. At some point, they drank all the water, and Ishmael is dying from exhaustion. Hagar helped him to the shade of a tree and went and sat down about 100 meters away from him, and she did not want to see him die because she thought they were going to die, as it appeared to be a hopeless situation. At the same time, Ishmael was crying, and God heard him. The angel of God spoke to Hagar from heaven and asked, What is the trouble, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard Ishmael crying. The angel instructed Hagar to go over, lift him up, and help him stand up. The angel also stated that God will make him a great nation of people. At that point, God opened her eyes and she saw a whale. And she went to the whale and filled the container with water and gave Ishmael water to drink. So God turned an unexpected, unlikely deliverance into salvation when it appeared all hope was lost. So those are the summary lesson points for Sunday, January 9th, 2022. A mother's demand from Genesis chapter 21, verses 8 through 10. A father's dilemma from Genesis chapter 21, verses 11 through 14a. An unlikely deliverance from Genesis chapter 21, verses 14b through 20. Thank you for watching. This is Brother Ron with the Sunday School Summary for Sunday, January 9th, 2022. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed week, and we hope to see you next Sunday for another edition of Sunday School Summary with Brother Ron.